have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. What is private money? He said, well, private money and private lenders is where an individual, just like you or me, can take their investment capital, loan the money to us on our deal, and repay them high rates of return safely and securely. I said, no, I never heard of doing business with a private lender. He said, well, have you also heard of self-directed IRAs? I said, no, what's that? He said, well, a self-directed IRA is a company or a third-party custodian that's been approved by the IRS that allows individuals to take current retirement funds, move them over to the self-directed IRA company with no tax effect and no penalty. And then once it's moved over, they can then loan those retirement funds out to us real estate investors, and then we get to pay them either tax deferred or tax free interest income. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. Very excited to be here today, and we're going to do a great show today around real estate. So, I love to talk about your relationship with money, and people have very interesting mindsets around investing in real estate. A lot of beliefs, some of them that serve them, some of them that may be false limiting sort of beliefs. So I have an amazing expert with me today who offers some new ways to think about real estate and to make real estate investing happen for you. So very excited to introduce you to today's guest. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little about him. Jay Conner began investing in real estate in 2003. At the start of his career, he relied on his local banker and was able to put together a few deals. However, that also meant coming up with large down payments, paying origination fees, and signing personal guarantees on every deal. After years of feeling owned by the bank and being stressed out, he learned how to buy properties using creative financing, including subject to and using lease options. After the market crashed in 2008, his banker cut him off. Jay had to abandon everything he knew about how to finance his deals. Then he heard about the world of private money. He developed his own system for gathering millions of dollars for real estate deals. Over several years, Jay refined his system until it was repeatable and dependable. When he put it to the test, the first person he approached gave him $250,000 in private money. In just a few short months, Jay raised $2,150,000 in private money. Despite initially cursing his banker, Jay now thanks him. Jay's unique system allows him to enjoy seven-figure profits year after year. He also has the freedom to work less than 10 hours a week in his real estate investing business by leveraging the power of automation. Jay, welcome.
Oh, my lands, Michelle. Thank you so much for inviting me to come along and be on your show and talk about what I'm most passionate about, and that's this world of private money, because since I learned about private money, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the money, and I'm so glad that your show focuses so much on mindset and the relationship with money, because I tell people all the time, until you own the real estate between your ears, it's going to be hard to own real estate in and of itself. So, yes, thank you so much for me inviting to come along, and we'll dive in here, Michelle, and And on the show, we'll talk about how in the world can you go about getting all the money for your real estate deals without ever asking for money.
Well, that is very exciting. And I have to say, I thought I tackled a lot of my own mindset issues, limits, traps, blocks, whatever you want to call them. Um, until this year, I was doing something different, and I was developing an investment property, um, more, a sort of higher level property than I had really ever anticipated having. And so I got tripped up by my own, fears about it, my own kind of, feelings about stepping into something that was a little bit beyond my comfort zone, actually a lot beyond my comfort zone. And then working with somebody who was very experienced as a developer with higher end properties. And his way of thinking was very different than mine. And I tried to be open-minded, even though I was having a lot of worries and resistance, and we had a lot of arguments. But I could see the way he thought about this so differently than I did. So for you to just start by telling us how you got to this place where you're doing this.
Sure. Well, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we live here in eastern North Carolina in a really, really small area. Our total target market is only 40,000 people. We live here in what's called the southern tip of the Outer Banks. So it's a resort area as our main industry, but it's still a small market. Well, we started investing in single-family houses all the way back in 2003 here in the local area. Since that time, we have bought and flipped over 500 houses. I don't say that to brag. I do say that to make a point. There's an argument to be made that there's a lot of advantages in owning a smaller market, being a big fish in a small pond, instead of trying to compete with all the other real estate investors in a big city. But nonetheless, we started in 2003. Now, Michelle, from 2003 until 2009, the first 6 years that we were investing in single-family houses, the only thing that I knew to do to get my deals funded is to go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees, and say, please fund my deal. And, I'd have to pull up my skirt to show my personal assets and financial statements and get my credit score pulled and all this. So, for 6 years, I had to jump through quite a few hoops, even though I had a great credit score, to get my deals funded. Well, so it worked okay. It worked okay to use the local banks and institutional money those first 6 years. Well, Michelle, everything changed. Everything changed in January 2009. Now, I know it may be hard for you to believe, but we still have actual phones and handsets and cords here in North Carolina. But I picked up my telephone in January of 2009, and I called my banker. And my banker's name was Steve. And Steve had been funding my deals from the local bank for 6 years. And I told Steve about these 2 deals that I had under contract, these 2 houses I had under contract to purchase and the funding required for the deals. Well, I learned like that immediately over the phone during that call that the bank had closed my line of credit with no notice, Michelle. Yeah. And so I said to Steve over the phone, I said, Steve, what in the world are you saying? Why are you saying that my line of credit has been closed after we've had 6 years of a great business relationship? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, Steve, but you just gave me a global financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my 2 deals. So I hung up the phone and I sat here at this desk for just a moment. And Michelle, I asked myself a very powerful question. And the power's in asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. So I asked myself this question. I want to share this question with you and your audience because this question will help fix any problem that anybody's got. And by the way, these people are running around saying, oh, every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. Let's face the facts. So this question I asked myself will help fix any problem, such as, I don't care if it's financial, career, health, relationships, doesn't matter. And here's the question I asked myself when I got off the phone from my banker. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help fix your problem? And I immediately, when I asked myself that question, I immediately thought of our good friend Jeff Blankenship. He was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time, back in 2009, and he was investing in single family houses. So I called him up. I called up Jeff. I told him I'd just been cut off from the bank and I was wanting to know what he was, doing to fund his deals. And he said, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, well, what club is that? He said, the club of the bank shutting you down. He said, my bank shut me down last week. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your real estate deals? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. What is private money? He said, well, private money and private lenders is where an individual, just like you or me, can take their investment capital, loan the money to us on our deal, and repay them high rates of return safely and securely. I said, no, I never heard of doing business with a private lender. He said, well, have you also heard of self-directed IRAs? I said, no, what's that? He said, well, a self-directed IRA is a company or a third-party custodian that's been approved by the IRS that allows individuals to take current retirement funds, move them over to the self-directed IRA company with no tax effect and no penalty. And then once it's moved over, they can then loan those retirement funds out to us real estate investors. And then we get to pay them either tax deferred or tax free interest income. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. But I knew Jeff had told me something. So we talked about that a little bit. And then I hung on the phone, and Michelle, I went to study in this world of private money. The first thing I did is I got my mindset right. You see, I wanted to attract, I didn't want to chase. I wanted to attract private money into my life without chasing, no begging, no selling, no persuading. I wanted to attract the money from my deals. So here's the way I set out to do it, and I still do it today. So the first thing I wanted to do is have a servant's heart, lead with teaching and leading with value in visiting with other people. So I started with my own, what I call warm market, my own connections. And before I started visiting with my own connections, I put together what I call my private lending program. Here's a big difference between borrowing institutional money and this world of private money. With institutional money at the bank or with a hard money lender, and when I say private money, I'm not talking hard money. Those are two totally different things. Hard money is an institutional lender, typically a broker. Well, one of the big differences is when you borrow money from an institution, they make the rules. They set the interest rate. They set the length of the note. They set the maximum loan to value, etc. Well, in this world of private money, we, the borrower, we make the rules. You see, instead of asking or applying for a mortgage, we're offering a mortgage or offering an opportunity where people can earn high rates of return safely and securely in a world that they never heard about. I've got 47 private lenders today that are funding our deals. And you know, Michelle, what's interesting? Not one of them had ever heard of private money or private lending until I did this. I put on my teacher hat, my private lender teacher hat, and I just went about in my own connections, teaching people what this world of private money is all about. Not one of my 47 private lenders ever heard of private money or self-directed IRAs until I taught them about it. So the first thing I did was teach them the opportunity. What's the interest rate I pay? How are they protected? How can they get their money back early in case of an emergency? So I just taught them the program without having any kind of a deal attached to it, just the program. And then once they are interested, they tell me how much they've got to invest. Then I come back to them for a deal to fund, and I never pitch the deal. Now, what I want to do, Michelle, after you give me permission, I want to share with you and your audience the exact script on how I get my deals funded without ever asking anybody to fund them. But I want to give it back to you first to see if there's anything I need to clarify before I share the exact script.
Well, this is great, and I mean, I love your enthusiasm for this, and I'm smiling the whole time. I do have a million questions. I mean, everything you're saying, I'm glomming onto, thinking, "Ooh." Um, First, I don't know. There's something so magical about this show. I always attract guests who understand how important it is to attract in what you want. And like you say, not chase it, not be desperate about it, but just to do the mindset work and the actual work that just attracts to you what you're seeking. And that's huge. So I just love it. It makes me so happy. I don't know why I don't get guests coming onto the show who believe otherwise, which is so exciting because I don't know what I would do if they showed up and started
Well,
saying the opposite.
that is the law of attraction. I believe what part of the law of attraction says is first of all, what you focus on is going to manifest in your life. You're going to attract that. I really believe that we attract into our lives people that are like us. You know, Michelle, I don't know who came up with the belief that opposites attract. That's the most stupid thing I ever heard in my life. I want to hang around people that are like me, that have got my same core values, that have got my same belief system. So, yes, I think that's the reason it happens. And, you know, one thing you said just a second ago, Michelle, I got to share this with you. So, I got a writer downer for you. I got a writer downer for your audience. If you don't know what a writer downer is, that's simply Southern for you need to write this down. So you said the word desperation a moment ago. And here is the writer downer, quote unquote, desperation has got a smell to it.
That's good.
Desperation's got a smell to it. Now, what do I mean by that? Of course, you know what I mean, Michelle, but what I mean by desperation's got a smell to it is when you're feeling desperate, when you're feeling lack, when you're feeling scarcity, then whoever you're visiting with sense that. I mean, you are exuding what you're feeling. And so, you know, sometimes new real estate investors that haven't raised capital before, one thing they'll say to me, Michelle, and there's that word fear. I think you mentioned that word fear in the opening. But sometimes they'll say, Jay, I've got a fear of rejection. I don't want to ask for money because I'm afraid I'll be rejected. Well, I answer that concern with a question. And the question is, how can you be rejected if you're not asking anybody for anything? You're leading with a servant's heart. You got your teacher hat on. You're leading with value. You're teaching people this world, this opportunity that 99.99% of people walking around never heard about it.
You're right. And you know, the funny thing is I'm seeing a lot of headlines about it. But I think for most people, when they see a headline about, you know, the growing world of private equity, when they're looking at the, you know, their stock newsletters or whatever, I think they sort of gloss over it because they don't know what it is. And you know, it's a whole other world that has, well, nothing about money has actually been taught to us, as you know. But throughout the years
You
of trying to
certainly don't learn it in you don't learn it in traditional education.
right. Exactly. So you have to make a bigger effort. And it's a big world. You know, there are a lot of topics and a lot of things to learn, and it can get pretty confusing. So I love it when somebody like you can come here and, you know, and teach people what something is that they may otherwise just ignore because it sounds too complicated. Couple other things that you said. One thing, you know, banks and other institutions will surprise you with the power that they have over you. We too had a line of credit shut down. It wasn't real estate related, it was business related, but it was a shocker to me. I was just like, can you do this? I mean, you know, and they wanted all their money back with it was maxed out and they wanted everything back within like 3 months or something. So it was pretty crazy. This other, I think, more important thing, that's just sort of a, you know, beware kind of statement. But what I really loved was the question and the fact that you asked yourself a really important powerful question when you had this problem. And somebody else had been talking on this subject, not on the podcast, in a group I'm in, and said, always ask yourself who, not what. And which is exactly what you were saying. And so I love that because we forget. We sit there and we panic and we think I've got to figure out the solution. And really what we should be thinking is who can help me with this. So that was brilliant. And I just want to kind of reiterate that because people don't naturally go there. So that's good.
Right. I'm verifying it right now, but there's a book that was written recently. I think it's by I know who it's by. It's by Dan
Oh,
Sullivan,
yeah.
co-authored Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Oh,
And the name of the book, it just came out 3 or 4 years ago. The name of the book is Who, Not How.
maybe that's where I heard it. Yeah.
And I highly recommend it. In fact, Carol Joy and I were so blessed to get to meet Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He's got a fascinating story. Um, Dr. Benjamin Hardy also, speaking of mindset, Dr. Benjamin Hardy also came out. Yep, that's the book right there. Wow, that's magical, Michelle. Uh, Dr.
Like Kyle.
Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy also published or wrote a book a couple of years ago. It's amazing. Talk about mindset. The name of the book is Be Your Future Self Now.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Be Your Future Self Now.
Can I tell you a
And
story? I have to interrupt you.
please do.
My sister was in the hospital last week and I was taking care of her. I'm her guardian. I bring her home finally last night. So happy that she's back in her place where she lives. I thought I'm going to treat myself. I went to Barnes and Noble and guess what book I bought?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. Yeah. That's so
You
crazy.
just got Be Your Future Self Now.
And I'd never heard of it before until I was reading. A friend of mine was just saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm loving this book," and I just went and bought that book last night. There it is. It's on my dining room table. I just
look,
bought it.
Since we happen to be talking, I just got a chill, Michelle.
I know, isn't it crazy? Yeah,
I just got a chill. You never heard of the book until as recent as you did.
yesterday. Yeah.
Here I am on your show, and I'm talking about Be Your Future Self Now. So,
And how many books are actually out there in the world?
so I got to share with you and your audience my favorite definition. I didn't come up with it. I don't know who did, but when I heard it, here's my favorite definition of coincidence. So we could say, oh, well, this is coincidental. I don't think there's hardly any coincidences. But anyway, so it's like, well, that's coincidental that, Michelle Perkins on her show just got this book yesterday. Here's Jay on the show. He's talking about the book. And so my favorite definition of coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous.
Ooh, I have not heard that. That's great. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, I'm so excited. Is it okay if I share the script right now?
Yes, and let's get back to private equity because I still feel like people you were talking I think about both sides of the equation here. So the people who need money to fund what they want and then the people who are lending, and you can do both in the private money world. But will you give us a little more clarity for people thinking, well, I can't get bank loans, so let me listen to this guy and see what I can do.
Sure. So a private lender, I said it briefly a few minutes ago, but I want to reiterate it. So a private lender is not institutional money. It's not a bank. It's not hard money. By the way, I'm not knocking hard money. Some of my best friends in the world are hard money lenders. In fact, they use my techniques to go raise money from private lenders for their hard money fund to then turn around and lend out to real estate investors. And so let's be straight on this. A hard money lender for real estate is typically a broker. Typically is a broker of money that goes out and raises money from individuals, private lenders. There's your private lenders, raises money from private lenders for their fund that they in turn loan out at a higher interest rate to us real estate investors, and they charge points and extension fees, and they make the rules and all that. Again, I'm not knocking them. I'm just pointing out the difference. This world of private lending, there's no middle person involved. You have an individual, the private lender, that's loaning money to us, the borrower, the real estate investor, from either their investment capital and or their retirement funds, and it's directly between us. So one thing to just take note of is today in the world of hard money, and I'm just pointing this out, in the world of hard money, a lot of hard money lenders now call themselves private lenders when actually they are the lender, but they're getting the money from private lenders or private investors. Okay. So the way I attract private lending, I still can't get over you just got that book yesterday. Anyway,
Actually.
the way I attract or get the money is I circumvent the middle person. Okay. The hard money lender or broker. And I go direct to the sources. And, I'm able to put on my teacher hat that I talked about earlier. Not one of our 47 private lenders had ever heard about private money, private lending, self-directed IRAs, and how they can use current retirement funds to earn tax-free or tax-deferred income until I taught them about it. And, one question comes up, well, Jay, how did you get the word out so fast? Well, I had one-on-one visits. My very first private lender was on a Wednesday night from Bible study. I visited with him after Bible study, and that's a fascinating story that we might not have time to get to. But I also put on private lender luncheons. Well, what in the world is a private lender luncheon? Well, private lender luncheon is where I invite 15 or 20 people in my network out of my cell phone, from the Rotary Club, everywhere you're connected. And I invite them to lunch. I buy them lunch, but, give them a free lunch. And I teach them for 20 or 25 minutes what this world of private money is all about. And then they let me know if they want to hear more about it. I've raised $969,000 at one 60-minute luncheon.
Wow.
I didn't get it there at the luncheon.
Right,
But,
right.
that's where the conversation started.
Wow. Okay. So talk to me about the advantages and disadvantages. So, is it who is this right for? Who's and what are, because I can imagine people thinking, well, this is going to be more expensive. This is going to be, maybe even potentially riskier. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great question. So first of all, who is this for? So let me be clear on the question, Michelle. Are you asking, okay, what do the private lenders look like?
Yeah, I think I'm asking a few questions, so that's my bad. But yeah, let's answer that one.
So most real estate investors think that private lenders are these, high level, hard to reach people that are loaded with money and hard to talk to, and all that is a myth. All that is a myth. All that is in between your ears. It's not true. Let me give you the complexion of what my 47 private lenders look like. As I mentioned, not one of them had ever heard of private money or private lending until I taught them about it. Number two, who are they? Well, I have retired school teachers. I got a husband and a wife that have got $1,250,000 with me that we keep moving from project to project. Both of them are retired school teachers. I have a retired police officer that just recently retired. I have minors. I have two people that are less than 18 years old.
Wow.
That got an inheritance from their grandparents. And so the grandkids got the money, and so the parents didn't know what they could do with the money. So I've got minors that are private lenders. I have a retired lieutenant colonel from the Marine Corps. And so the point is, I have a lady, her husband recently passed away. They owned their own print shop here in Morehead City. They're entrepreneurs. I have another private lender who is working, and he is a civil engineer with Cherry Point Naval Air Station. Here's the point: these are regular people. These are regular, everyday people, and some of them may only have $50,000. Some of them may have $200,000. I've got one private lender that was referred to me from another private lender that has $600,000 with me, just liquid investment capital, and he is an architect out in Arlington, Texas, that was referred to me. And so these people come from all walks of life. Never prejudge anybody as far as, sharing what this information is all about. And, you never know who they know.
Mm-hmm.
My first private lender that we're probably not going to have time for me to share the story, but my first private lender, I didn't ask him for money. I've never asked anybody for money. I told him I had opened up my real estate investing business by referral only, and that I'm now paying high rates of return, insane high rates of return. And I told him, I need your help. And he said, well, what do you need my help with? I said, well, when you run across someone that's complaining about losing money in the stock market or the volatility of it, or only getting, 3.5% in the local bank in a CD, would you refer them to me, and I'll tell them about my opportunity to where they can get really high rates of return safely and securely? Well, he wanted to get involved. I didn't ask him for money. I just asked him for his help to spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
So he became a private lender just by me asking for his help. And then he did refer a lot of private lenders to me. So, so the private lender is ordinary, everyday people. All right. Now, who is this money for? What type of real estate investors is this for?
Right.
And I'll tell you who it's for. It's for any real estate investor that wants to scale their business, that would like to be able to get their deals funded in 7 days or less. Yes, I get my deals funded in less than 7 days. This money is for people that like to make their own rules. Would you like to be in control of setting your own interest rate and not having to abide by the rules of the lender, institutional money? This private money is for you if you want to do real estate. And here's another big writer downer. Never had to take any money to the closing table when you buy, and you always get a big check when you purchase the property. Who wants to get paid to buy properties?
Yeah.
Now, that formula only works if you're buying at a discounted price because the property is in some kind of distress, and that's why you're getting it at a discounted rate. But in this world of private money, I always pick up a big check from my real estate attorney who does all my closings without me taking any money to the closing table. This private money is also for you if you want to get your cash flow fixed. We structure deals in our own business to where we don't even have to pay monthly interest payments to our private lenders. So think about fixing your cash flow. Buy a property, get a big check when you buy. Don't make any payments until you cash out on the deal. If you're interested in getting your cash flow fixed and scaling your business, this private money is for you.
Wow. Okay, that's intriguing. And so who is creating these deals? Is that being done by you, or how is this coming together?
The deals are being created by the real estate investor. So for this system to work, you got to know how to find deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do you find these deals? Well, you'll have to have me back for that show, Michelle. How do you find these deals? I can tell you where you don't find them. You don't find them in the multiple listing service. I hadn't bought anything in the multiple listing service in over 5 years since COVID. There's no deals in the MLS. So all these deals that we find are off market. In other words, they're all for sale by owners. So you got to know how to find them. We can do another show and talk about that.
Oh, interesting.
But you got to find them. You want to have the private money lined up first so you can close quickly, so you can take action on the deals. So that's an overview as to who this private money is for.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, okay, so this is fascinating. It's also a little bit complicated, but you've written a book on this. So tell us a little about your book.
And it's very easy to read. I'm so excited about this book. And Michelle, may I give this book to your audience?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's not an ebook, it's an actual book. And Michelle, did you know the United States Postal Service is actually still in business?
Yeah.
So I will autograph this book. So this is not an ebook. The name of the book is Where to Get the Money Now. Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle is How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Hard Money or Institutional Lenders. I'll autograph the book. I'll rush it out 3-day delivery, 3-day express, and you can pick it up. So the book is free. It's $20 on Amazon, but don't spend $20. The book is free. Just cover shipping and handling. You can pick up the book at J. Connor, and by the way, I'm an ER, not an OR. You can pick up the book at J. Connor, JayConner.com/book. Again, that's www.jayconner.com/book, and I'll rush it right out to you.
Well, that's very generous. I'm going to get my copy. And I think this is really interesting. I also think it's an aspect of the financial world that is growing and that people should be aware of and have, more insight into this. And
well, here we are in 2025, and I was asked recently, Jay, how important do you think private money is in 2025? Well, I got two answers. First of all, you can't spend it all. There's so much of it. And prior to COVID, there was $18 trillion in cash that could be used for people who were looking for a home. But now in 2025, $31 trillion available in cash that is looking for a home. So learn my system, put on your teacher hat, and attract the money. And in addition to that, institutional money is tight, tight, tight. I used to live in Texas. That's where I met Carol Joy, my wife. And they had a saying out there, woo, tighter than Dick's hat band. Well, I don't know who Dick was, but money is tighter than Dick's hat band right here in 2025. And you got to have a great credit score. You got to be able to prove, your financial wherewithal. And so, I just looked it up last week, Michelle. 81% of Americans can't even go to the local bank and get a mortgage. 81%.
Wow. That's a big
percentage. If you're going to be a real estate investor, the percentage is even higher than that of not being able to get it, because as a real estate investor, if you're borrowing institutional money, you got to do a lot of proving. So it's tight. But guess what? In this world of private money, there's more than you can use if you follow my easy to understand system.
And did you give us your script? I don't want to miss that.
Oh, no, I didn't. So I'm going to give the script right now. So here's the script. Here's the exact script on how I get my deals funded without ever asking for money. Remember, this is critical. Separate the conversations with your new private lender or potential private lender from teaching the program the opportunity to having a deal for them to fund. So, Michelle, let's pretend. Let's say that you are one of my new private lenders. And let's also hypothetically say that you had $150,000 sitting in maybe a former 401k. And let's say I taught you about self-directed IRAs and how you can use that retirement funds. So I introduced you to my self-directed IRA representative, the company, and you've moved that $150,000 with no tax penalty, no tax effect, over to the self-directed IRA company. When you did, I told you, I'll say, Michelle, I'm going to put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. Notice there's been no conversation of a particular deal up until this point. So you moved your money over. I told you I'm going to put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. A week or two goes by. I call you up, and here's the exact script. Here's exactly what I say to you as my new private lender. You answer the phone. We have a little chit chat. And then here's exactly what I say. Michelle, I have got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract to purchase in Newport, North Carolina, right next door here to where I live. The after repaired value is $200,000. Now, the funding required for the property is $150,000, which matches up to what you have. Closing is going to be next Tuesday, so I'll need for you to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Monday. I'm going to have my attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's it. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could ask Michelle is, do you want to fund the deal? Of course Michelle wants to fund the deal because she's moved her money over to the self-directed IRA company, and she did that based on my recommendation. Michelle's not making any money until I put her money to work for her, as I promised, and she knows I'm not going to bring a deal for her to fund that doesn't match the criteria of the program that I already taught. So quickly unpacking that, you teach the program first. By the way, the entire program is right here in my book that I'm going to mail to you. The entire program that you teach is right here in the book. They move the money over. They are counting on you to put the money to work. And I'm not asking, begging, chasing, or persuading. I'm serving.
Wow. Okay. I'm very curious now. I've got to get the book. So, yeah. So you tell me that, and I agree to wire my money. And then what expectation do I have? How long do I get how far am I from a return? What's the expectation I should have?
Right. Well, as to whether we're going to accrue the interest or if I'm going to make you monthly payments or quarterly payments, we will have agreed on that up front. Because different private lenders have got different objectives. Some private lenders actually need the monthly income to live off of. They want their investment capital or their retirement funds. And so you wire the money, I close on the deal, and on the day that we close is when the clock starts kicking or clicking and ticking for you to earn the interest that I promised you. The length of the notes are typically 2 years. But, I may only be in the deal for 6 months or 9 months, and I'll pay you off at that time, along with any unpaid accrued interest. Or if I got another deal right in the hopper, we can substitute the collateral, get an installment, or get a loan modification. You'll sign up on that, and your note will stay active, and you'll keep earning money. So, yeah, the funds are wired. You immediately start earning money.
Well, this is very cool. So I love that you're teaching this. I love that you're so knowledgeable about it, and that you have, written this book that people can learn from. So thank you so much for being here. I do wish we had more time. There's a lot more that we could talk about. So I might love having you back sometime to continue this conversation. But thank you so much. This is really enlightening, and I think anybody can hear your passion for it. And so it's just energetically, I know there's something really good here. And it is an important area for people to understand, myself included. So I can't wait.
Wonderful.
So thank you. And again, audience, please check out jconnor.books jconnor.com/book. And you can get your free book, except for shipping. So,
and Michelle, my lands, I almost forgot to even mention, I'm now in my 8th year of my own podcast. And guess what the name of the podcast is? Raising Private Money. Raising Private Money. So it's on all the platforms. So obviously, you listeners, you love podcasts, or you wouldn't be here with Michelle Perkins. So go to wherever your favorite podcast platform is and simply search for Raising Private Money with Jay Connor. And I have 2 shows a week, early Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. And I'm always interviewing amazing other real estate investors that have also raised private money. And I interview them about how they go about raising private money for their real estate deals.
That's fantastic. Yes. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that sounds like a great podcast to listen to as well. So, and I think podcasting is a great way to learn. So it's like, short lessons every podcast, and I love it. So, and so many case studies and examples like what you just said. So that's so great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle, thank you so much for having me. I've loved being on the show with you.
Thank you. I loved having you. We had a lot of synchronicity going on here. So this is really great. And I very much appreciate your time. And look forward to speaking to you in the future. So Okay. Take care, Jay. And audience, thank you so much for being here. I hope you got a lot out of the show. I do hope you will get the book and enjoy that, and give yourself a good education and a lot of opportunity to earn and to get involved in the private equity world. So, okay. Well, thank you for being here. And you know where to find us. We're on all the podcast platforms. We're on the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. And we would love it if you would share the show and rate and review the show. That always helps us have great guests like Jay coming onto the show. So thanks so much. And we'll see you next week.